Just over a month ago, 24-year-old Alice Vulliamy left her home here in the Brecon Beacons and disappeared. Alice has been suffering from anorexia for more than a decade, and last year she featured in a Wales This Week film about the illness.
People might think, oh, all she has to do is start eating properly and pull herself together and just start eating properly and stop exercising so much and just do normal things. It's not that difficult just to eat, but it's not as easy as that for me. It's not as easy just to eat properly or to totally change your habits of your day-to-day habits.
Her family invited our cameras to share their desperate hunt for clues and their agonising wait for news as police, mountain rescue teams and members of the public continue their search for Alice.
On the radio. We're searching for Alice, the young girl gone missing, and we're sort of radiating out from where her car was found, searching in sort of wider circles, looking out, and obviously the river is a large part of that search. We've got the two kayaks who are obviously searching from the river, and we have a land search where we're looking possible places where things can catch, where the water turns back on itself in an eddy, and searching as thoroughly as we can.
When Alice Vulliamy went missing on Sunday the 6th of February, it sparked a huge search involving the police, fire service and the Brecon Mountain Rescue Team. 3 weeks later, they're out scouring the waterways again.
At this time of year, the water's obviously cold and the weather conditions don't help. So depending on how fit you are, you've probably got 15-20 minutes before you start finding it hard to swim. So it's not a long time really, but no signs at this stage.
Alice lives with her family in Llangynnyd, a village about 10 miles from Brecon. Her parents regularly join walkers to keep the search for her fresh in people's minds.
Can I just have your attention for a second? I think some of you know that Alice has been looked for in the last 3 weeks, and she's our daughter. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. She was last seen in Llangynnyd 3 weeks ago, and she's an intrepid walker, and we're really uncertain as what's happened to her. If she was determined to do away with herself, she probably would be capable of doing that. But if she changed her mind, and if she'd taken a different route, she'd be equally determined to preserve herself and look after herself. And we're confident in that.
The point I'm at is still a very hopeful point, and while she remains missing, and while there's no hard evidence to the contrary, we stay positive in the hope that she's still out there. I don't allow myself to dwell on how she would be managing, where she would be, because that is a very, very destroying thought process.
Alice on Saturday night went babysitting, and she would have walked to babysitting because it's just a few hundred yards away to there. After babysitting, she walked back and came back home and changed her clothes. And we think that was when she took the car and drove back over the Llangynnyd Bridge and found her way to Brecon, which is 10 miles away upstream, because that's where the car was found.
The man coordinating the search is Inspector Andy Pitt of Dyfed-Powys Police.
Alice's car was found here, which is outside Christ College, opposite the Bridge Cafe, Bridge Street in Brecon Town Centre. But all we do know is that the car was actually found at this location, and it was from here then that the search was actually commenced. In all likelihood, in the most cases, you'd expect to find the person within a certain vicinity of the car, so the search was commenced in relation to the grounds of Christ College and the River Usk, which runs through Brecon and is obviously just a matter of yards away. You know, she may have decided that she needed to get away, or she could have indeed decided to harm herself. Obviously the river there is something that we had to consider. That's why we then launched the search with the Mounted Rescue and with our own police search officers.
Alice, who was very short-sighted, left her glasses and coat in the car and her purse at home. But perhaps the biggest cause for concern is a battle for health which stretches back years.
Our daughter Alice has an eating disorder, anorexia, which we first realised that she had 10 years ago. But, of course, none of us realised at the time that in 10 years' time we would still be fighting and battling through this terrible illness with her.
When she went missing, Alice was spending time in hospital being treated for weight loss.
She had one night's leave, but she was due back the next day, and she knew what was in store. She knew she would be back in hospital the next day. She would then have to increase her weight a little bit more. She would then be pushed to get to this higher target that they spelt out that she needed to achieve.
Yes, this is where Alice left her trousers when she came back after babysitting, and she put them out here to dry. So that's how we know that she came back that night. And this is Alice's room here. It's not a room that I've ever really come into, and it's a bit of a surprise to see how tidy she kept her room. But it does show all the things that she treasured, and it actually shows how carefully she looked after everything. She's also very much into doing making cards and painting. So all around the room she's got little boxes of bits and pieces that she uses making cards. And she left a lot of things behind. She left her money behind. She left her watch behind. And she left her mobile phone behind. She didn't take those with her. Alice is actually 24, but really she had the body of a much younger girl and also the behaviour of a much younger girl because of her illness. She's missed out on a lot of things that girls do. And perhaps most poignant of all, that's where she left the note saying that she couldn't battle anymore.
The search carried on throughout that Sunday. However, we were then in receipt a couple of days later of some new information which took us back then to Alice's home village in Llanganada.
On the day she disappeared, there were 2 reliable sightings of her back in the village, just yards from her home.
During Sunday morning, she was seen in this part of Llanganada, which is the bottom of the Dyffryn Road. And we wonder whether she then walked up the Dyffryn Road and up the Dyffryn Valley, which she knew quite well.
So Alice may have walked the 10 miles back from Brecon to the village, something her parents say she's quite capable of doing, as she walks a lot to keep her weight down.
This is a route that she regularly walked and would often come up this way to this actual point where she'd turn around and walk back to the village. We know that she's troubled because of the illness that she's suffering from. So again, it could be that she just needs to get away, that she needs to have a break, and maybe she was just confused and was trying to work things out in her own mind. That's quite, that's as much a possibility as anything else.
Most days her parents like to wander along this path in the hope it may jog people's memories.
It's not like her not to contact us for going such a long period of time without getting in touch. She's very close to her family, and it's out of character for her to do this.
Yes.
The idea of her fending for herself on her own in this weather is quite a terrifying thought. Alice was a normal, happy, healthy young child. The picture here is of her happily involved in going off to pony camp. She played netball. And one of Alice's great passions and interests was her violin, which she learnt from a very young age, and was a music scholar at the school that she attended in secondary school. But of course, in her eyes, there was always somebody else better than she was. She was never quite as the person that she felt that she needed to be.
Last year, Alice spoke to Wales This Week about the impact of her anorexia on the family.
When you suffer from anorexia, you become very self-obsessed and you try and control yourself, but you control the whole family, you control everybody around you as well. So it impacts on the whole family. With anorexia, it's not all about the food, it's not all about the weight. The weight and the food is all the symptom of the eating disorder. There's other underlying issues that come with anorexia. It's something that you can be good at. Because I've never achieved anything else through my schooling and things like that. The one thing that I have achieved at is my eating disorder, and that's the one thing that I found that I'm good at. I don't like the fact that I have such a negative impact on other people. But unfortunately, I'm not at a stage where I can sort of have control over that.
Alice had completed a childcare course and worked locally with children when she could. She generally received medical care at home, but when her weight dropped dangerously low, she would either travel to a specialist eating disorder unit in England, or she was admitted to a general mental health ward in Wales.
There are very little in the way of inpatient services in Wales. The approach has been very much to focus on outpatient community services, and that's a very positive thing. However, inpatient services aren't there, and I'm not absolutely sure that a general mental health unit is the best place for an otherwise mentally well person with anorexia, because the support within those units is not what it might be.
I'd like to point out very, very strongly at this point that we were totally supportive of what the team were doing in this, and we feel that it was absolutely the right way to be going forward. But she found it very, very challenging and very, and we could only second guess what her thoughts were, but she obviously got very, very afraid. We're not sure, but I think it was that fear, not of running away from home, not running away from us, it was running away from the treatment that she was having to go through.